Caleb Williams a bust. He's a bust. After 2 weeks, Caleb Williams is a bust. Through 2 games, he's 37 of 36, 56.1 completion percentage, 267 yards, 4 yards per attempt, which is last in the league. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, minus negative 34.2 EPA per play, which is bottom 3 in the league, just in front of Bryce Young and Bo Nix. Bottom 5 in completion percentage over expected. Bottom 3 in QB rating. One of 4 QBs without touchdowns through 2 games. Lowest yards per attempt in the league. I said that earlier. 8th, this is a positive. It's the 8th lowest time to throw in the league. But you could look at that as they're just throwing screen passes. Or he's just dunking the ball off. He's not taking shots. Pressured on 43.2% of his dropbacks so far through 2 weeks. Is Caleb Williams a bust? He's a bust, or am I overreacting?
I'm going to tell you this, Hunter. You're overreacting that Caleb Williams is a bust. But with that being said, let me be clear. I still have plenty of faith in Caleb. But what I don't have faith in is anything that the Bears have going for Caleb this season. And there will need to be drastic changes to the operation after this year. So let's just start with the obvious here, Hunter. And number one, and I'm hand-up guy. I'm always going to say when I was wrong, and I always like to get ahead of it. Like I always say, Shane Waldron was actually, funny enough, probably the worst imaginable hire that you guys could have made at this point, right? And here's why. The Bears needed to go West Coast, motion heavy. That's what they needed to do. And that's not even just a Bears thing. We're seeing from the perspective now of the way that the modern NFL is evolving. Essentially, if you're not running some variation of the West Coast offense, you have fallen behind. And if you're not okay admitting that, that's fine. But that's the reality of the NFL nowadays. Everyone who's running a West Coast variation is running an incredibly successful offense for the most part. And people that are falling behind the times. If you're not running motion consistently, if you don't have linebackers' eyes moving, first of all, it's incredibly hard to run the ball. So I think that's where I want to start. Let's start with the fact that, right, for Caleb to have any chance to succeed this year, you have to have teams that have just even a smidgen of fear when you want to run the ball. The Bears' run game is vanilla garbage. I mean, realistically, Hunter, me and you know exactly what plays coming 80% of the time, however the Bears line up, because it's just very obvious. They run to the side that the tight end, they run to the strong side 80% of the time. Again, back to there's zero motion. The screen game doesn't reflect the run game in any way. The screens are just kind of thrown in like willy-nilly. There's no tie in to the run to the run game.
It's so bad, dude. It is so
linebackers.
Bad.
And that's just scratching the surface. Let's get to part 2 where it's bad enough to have a run game that isn't functional from a schematic standpoint. Now, it's even worse when the run game doesn't work from a schematic standpoint and your offensive line is arguably the worst in the league. And I know that, yeah, if you're looking at just PFF or grading right now, you're saying to yourself, it's not that bad. No, trust me, it's really that bad. Because the problem is this too, Hunter. Let's just call for what it is. Braxton Jones was actually a very solid swing tackle and or starter even just 2 years ago. Last year was shaky. This year, Braxton Jones is really, really bad. On the other side, Darnell Wright had a really solid rookie year. I'm not even going to say good. Solid in terms of like, yeah, I see the downside, but man, oh man, is he a ginormous human being, and I think that he'll figure it out. But this year, Darnell Wright looks absolutely atrocious.
He looks bad in camp, dude.
It's bad. And Nate Davis is probably the worst guard in the whole league. Nate Davis was an atrocious signing. Call that one for what it was off the bat. And the funniest part is this. This is where it gets really funny to me. And look, Tevin Jenkins is awesome when he's out there, actually. I'll give you credit. Tevin Jenkins is the one-on lineman when he's out there. He's actually playing good ball for you guys.
He's not good, bro.
But he's not. Well, he's also not even out there. Really, can we rely on him to be out there more than half the season this year, knowing the history of Tevin Jenkins? Fair. That's a problem. And then that's the funniest part. You know, the one guy that we thought was going to be the abomination of the line that was going to be the one to ruin the operation, Coleman Shelton, funny enough, yeah, he's actually playing the best ball in this entire line. I mean, the reality is, Hunter, there's so many problems.
He's so bad, though. Like, he gets blown up so often.
No, he does. But that's the thing is, for what it's worth, him and Tevin Jenkins are the only guys even playing worth the damn. And that's the scary part is everyone else is so much worse that somehow Coleman Shelton is the guy that's the highest graded and is doing the most work on this O-line. And look, that just scratched the surface again. You know, you spent the first round pick on Rome Odunze. God bless him. But I've been saying from the whole draft process, look, he was not the right pick because it doesn't matter if even if Marv was available at that pick, it doesn't matter because the weapon was not the direction this team needed to go. When you have a young quarterback and you need to keep their confidence upright, and they're coming from a situation where they were the star, and yes, as we've acknowledged, Caleb Williams' O-line was not good in college. It really wasn't. But when you're playing against college athletes, you can mitigate it a lot more, right? These dudes are not running at you 20 miles an hour every single snap off the edge. It's different now. Caleb is not going to have the same escapability he had. And yes, we've seen he still has the escapability, but it's not going to be the same, and it never will be. That's not how the NFL works. It just isn't. You need an O-line that functions. It's the fact of the matter for every single NFL team. The Bears don't have a functioning O-line. They spent a premium ninth overall pick on a weapon that they didn't need. I mean, look, I'm going to let you go from here because I could go further, but I want to hear your thoughts as well here, Hunter.
So let's just be clear. I don't think Caleb Williams is a bust. I was just setting up the conversation. Like, let's be very clear.
I was going to say, great minds think alike. We knew you had to set it up. We had to set up with a punch.
I think I'm just saying, like, along the lines of what is so frustrating to me, Dobbs, is we spent, you are a Saints fan. We spent most of the offseason talking about how the Saints are probably going to have the worst O-line in the league. They're graded as one of the best. And the craziest part about it is the offensive coordinator that the Saints hired, the Bears interviewed twice. They could have had what the Saints have right now, and they didn't. And it just feels like, and we talked about this a little bit before the show, you being from the Chicagoland area, me being a Bears fan, like, we have watched this team over the years, and it always seems like when everybody's going right, for whatever reason, good or bad, they go left. It's like, why not do the Shanahan tree? Why not do the McVay tree? Why not go that way? Everyone is going that way because it works. And it's like, you bring in Waldron, who, dude, here's my thing. We have watched, if for as bad as the Bears have been on offense, we can always have relied on the run game the last couple of years, whether that's Justin, whether that's our running backs, whether that's our run blocking for the O-line. Whenever the Bears ran the ball last night, it was honestly a waste of a down. I don't care if the Texans literally played pass defense every time. We had a better chance of gaining a couple yards throwing the ball than we ever did running. DeAndre Swift, I'm convinced, could put on a blindfold and run for more yards per carry than he did last night because that man has some of the worst vision I have ever seen. It is so bad. My issue comes with this, okay? I don't necessarily agree with the trope of... So just to be clear, the point of this is, honestly, Caleb Williams is the least of the Bears' problems right now. It is coaching, and it is the offensive line. I was talking about this earlier today. When we watched Fields, and this is not going to be a Fields versus Caleb point, when I watch Fields compared to what I watched Caleb the last couple of games, what you see in Caleb, you never really saw Fields do on the field. And when we watch Fields, it was always, is it Fields? Is it the O-line? Is it the coaching? These games have been clear that it has not been Caleb. It has been the offensive line. It has been coaching. And it's just the same old story, over the last however many years, Dobbs. It's like mind-numbingly bad. Why have we always struggled with offensive line? Why have we always struggled with getting the offensive coach? And I don't agree with the point of, oh, you have to go offensive head coach, right? Because then what if you can't get the defensive coach right and your team has to put up 50 points a game to win a game? Like, I think complementary football is so big. But if you're going to go defensive head coach, you have to have a competent offensive play caller. And I understand why you went with Waldron, because you wanted someone with play calling experience after getting burned by the Getsy hire because he hadn't been calling plays. And Clint Kubiak, I think, called plays for a limited time prior, but not when he was on the 49ers, obviously. But my thing is, just because you made the wrong choice doesn't mean the opposite direction is the right choice either. Maybe you just picked the wrong guy, and I think that was the case. Like, oh, Nagy didn't work. Let's go to Flus. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't work like that. And I guess my thing is, they are going to really, really hinder Caleb's development if we're in a situation where We have to watch him get killed behind this offensive line. And I'm gonna stop. We literally have both gone on rants here because it's just so despicable. But Nate Davis cannot start another game. He is so out of it. He has no clue what's going on. He's constantly missing blocks. Like he got to the second level and he literally ran between both the defenders.
Oh no, that was an NCAA football 25
Egregious.
EA Sports moment. Literally, that's the type of shit EA Sports codes into their games. Like
he cannot start another down for the Chicago Bears. I don't give a fuck about the contract. I don't give a fuck about any of that. He is horrible constantly when he's out there. Horrible signing by Ryan Poles. With that being said, Dobbs, I think it's safe to say that Caleb Williams is not a bust, but the Bears' offensive line and coaching staff really need to get it figured out. And if not, and this is my last point, okay? Besides that, I'll say the Bears' O-line allowed the third most pressures of any team in the NFL through 2 weeks, and they're bottom 5 in rushing yards per game. That is very bad. This offseason, we talked about, okay, if they keep Flus, they can't get this wrong because we've lived in the lame duck head coach, rookie quarterback too many times. And it's looking like they made a mistake once again after looking at history in the face and saying this has never worked. When has a coach been on the hot seat and saved his job? When has it happened? It's very rare.
And then last thing, Hunter, because we will move on for this. I just want to make two more very crucial points. Look, and it pains me to say this because we've been championing him for so long, but this all does falls on Ryan Poles. There's just no other way to say it.
It's all Poles.
Especially because look, Ryan Poles had and this is from the outside perspective. I know probably Bears fans don't want to look at it this way, but you're gonna have to follow me here for a second. I think Ryan Poles has had a very smug attitude the whole time, kind of like, oh yeah, like just keep doubting us, like, oh, we're coming, like, and we're taking the North, like the whole, we're taking the North, all that shit, right? But the problem when you open your mouth with shit like that is you got to back it up because people like me don't like when you open your mouth about shit like that and then you come out looking flat. To me, that's actually to me, that's like the lowest thing you can do because not only is it setting your fans up for disappointment, but it shows that you had more faith in your operation than the operation hadn't, than you should have. I'm trying to think of the analogy here, but you get my point. That you had so much confidence in your operation, but the operation isn't showing as that the operation was successful. And last thing I want to say, because it's a different tangent, and we'll move on. This is true too, though. I want to point this out. Yes, it is Caleb's deep ball right now. And pretty inaccurate and to the point where I'm like, okay, this is not the Caleb I saw in college. Yes, that's true. But at the same time, again, back to the O-line, Hunter, he's fucking shell-shocked back there.
Yeah,
every snap he drops back, he's terrified he's going to get hit from left or right. It doesn't even matter what side it's coming from. It could be up the middle. He's petrified back there, and I don't blame him. When you come from a situation when you could do whatever you want and escape from anybody to a situation when you're literally in a collapsing pocket, basically 3/4 of the snaps of your entire career, 2 games in, well, I don't blame him for being trigger happy and not putting the ball where it needs to be. He's a rookie, and he has no time. And, final point, Hunter, this draft, all of the assets for the first 2 rounds, they need to go into the O-line, whether it's for development depth pieces or for starters. This team cannot continue to rely on hinge starters in free agency and depth pieces via draft capital. It is the stupidest, most illogical shit. That's the main thing that needs to be addressed this offseason. And it starts with Ryan Poles and the smug fucking attitude that he needs to wipe from his face. And that is a fact.
Okay, Dobbs, what are you overreacting to this week? I'm done. I'm done with the Bears, dude. I've sulked in it.
I think Bears fans would agree with everything we just said. Bears fans, I'm sorry. We had to lay it out though because we come from a passionate place. Last
thing I promise. The fact that we had a chance to win the game with 1:30 left, guys. Remember when we got blown out by the Chiefs 41 to whatever? The Bears team as a whole is moving in the right direction, but we need to make some very critical decisions coming up, or else we're going to be right back to where we started.
Facts.
All right, what are you overreacting to, Dobbs?
All right, you tell me, Hunter, because I'm gonna stick on the theme of NFC North here for a little bit. We're gonna stick on an NFC North theme here for the first couple. My question to you is: am I overreacting by saying